I want to talk about, well, there were lots of mitzvot in this week's parashah that might be confusing, but one known as Shiluach HaKein, the sending away from the nest. Can someone give me a quick summary of this mitzvah that we just read about? Because you were all, of course, paying attention and reading with careful memory. No, Shiluach HaKein. What is the basic mitzvah of Shiluach HaKein? All right, you come upon a nest. In the nest there are eggs or fledgling, baby birds, and in the ancient world, every piece of protein was an important piece of protein, and so you want to enjoy the bounty. But there's a mother bird sitting there, and she's quite agitated that you're disturbing her zone. What do? As the Tan said, you shoo away the mother bird. You send the mother bird away, then you gather the eggs or the fledglings, take them home and have a lovely breakfast or supper or lunch or whatever you're going to do with them. Okay, so that's the basic mitzvah. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Rabbi, this is not exactly what I would call a relevant mitzvah for the modern world. How often are we going to come across a nest? And honestly, show of hands, how many of you would eat eggs from a random nest? Not your chicken nest, but a random nest. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But, like I said in the introduction to the Torah readings, there are reasons behind the mitzvot. Some of them we cannot always divine. Some of them we can hypothesize. Some of them seem clearer. And there's one very clear reason given by our sages for most of the last 2,000 years, by most of our sages. There's a couple outliers, which I'll be happy to discuss during Kiddush if anyone wants the lowdown on that. That gives us a very clear reason of why we are told to practice this particular mitzvah, why we must shoo the mother away before we take from the nest. So we're not jerks. So that we actually show compassion to the mother bird. That showing compassion to the mother bird is the underlying reason for this mitzvah, because sure, we could take them while she's still sitting there, but that would kind of be terrible if you were a mother to watch someone just pluck your eggs or your fledglings out of the nest and go cook them. So have a little compassion. Now, the Torah can't tell us starve yourself because of your compassion for the bird. The Torah, despite what some people have argued, is not necessarily advocating vegetarianism, but it is advocating that we scale back our desire, scale back our appetite just enough that we not be the most outlandish, heartless, completely compassionless person that might live. And this is not the only place. We see for Shiluach HaKein, this idea of treating animals with respect in order that we will give them compassion. We see where we do not muzzle an ox when it is threshing our grain. Again, that it should not be tromping over its food, breaking apart the kernels, and not be able to eat, which would also be quite torturous for an animal. We do not harness the donkey and the ox together in the same yoke because they will not be able to pull equally, and at least one of them is going to be suffering from that arrangement, if not both. Time and time again, we are given mitzvot which teach us to show compassion to animals. Why? I know, it's like, well, Rabbi, it's obvious. Compassion's compassion. We need compassion. Compassion's a good thing. Compassion is one of those things that schools put on all of their logos and their mission statements and things like that. We all know that compassion is a huge, important value. Do we?
Respect for God's creation.
Respect for God's creation. So, do I have to actually show compassion to have respect? Can't I respect something and lack compassion towards it? Let me point out something. Over the last 150 years in particular, the concept of compassion has actually been under assault in Western philosophy and Western political ideologies. For the last 150 years, we have begun to question, quite seriously in many communities, of whether or not compassion, kindness, altruism are actually virtues, whether these are doing any good for a society. And I don't just mean the Nazi ideology of the Übermensch taken to the extreme, that the powerful should crush the weak because that is what gives rise to the finest form of humanity. Not even to that necessarily extent. But when we say sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind, when we say beggars can't be choosers, when we say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, when we say no good deed goes unpunished, we're often using these proverbs, these aphorisms, to condemn kindness, to rein it in, to wonder whether or not we need to be as nice as we are, that maybe we're being too nice. And by being too nice, you are becoming a sucker. By being too nice, by being too kind, you are actually going to hurt yourself, or some of the ideologies raise it to the level that you are hurting society because you are creating an inherent weakness, a dependency in society. We need tough love whenever we are doing poverty so that we can help the deserving poor, but not the undeserving poor. Remember, every time someone says deserving poor, they are also saying undeserving under their breath. That is highlighting a lack of compassion. Saying, in fact, compassion to the undeserving poor would be wrong, would be immoral. And Judaism says, no. No, what's wrong with you? What backwards philosophy are you trying to embrace that says that compassion is somehow a vice, that kindness is somehow meanness? The Torah tells us to be kind to animals, says our tradition, precisely so that we are not only kind to God's creation, not only kind to animals, but so that we will be kind to human beings. That these are the training wheels of morality. That if you can shoo away a mother, if you can dampen down your desire just enough to still get what you need, those eggs, but not so much as to take everything and not so much as to be heartless to the mother flapping about you, clearly distressed over what's happening, that if you can tune yourself to manage that level of self-control, that when it comes time to be compassionate to another human being, you will be better equipped. You will be better capable of feeling compassion to another person. We practice with the animals, and we carry out with our community. Because compassion may be somewhat instinctual. Most of us have had times where we have felt kindness towards another person that seemed to come out of nowhere. Most of us have felt at times an appreciation for kindness shown to us that we didn't have any expectation for, but knew that this was a blessing and that we felt great gratitude for. But kindness and compassion need practice.
I always find it interesting that we see so much compassion in animals than people. Nothing breaks your heart that, animals that will fight people or, abused animals or, anything. And maybe it's because they feel like animals are helpless, they can't communicate, but it just doesn't sometimes transfer to human beings the same kind of, emotional.
Because it needs to have the intentionality, right? Practice only works if you actually know what you're practicing, are aware of how you are practicing, practice it correctly, and then recall the practice when it actually is time to do it for real. Right? Anybody here who's ever practiced for a sport knows that if the coach makes you practice something that has no bearing of what's going on the field, that practice is completely pointless. If the coach makes you practice something that does have a bearing of what's going on the field, but doesn't explain to you how it will have an impact on the field, the practice is equally pointless. And if the coach makes you practice it, explains how it'll work on the field, and you get very good at it, but when you get on the field, you totally forget your practice, then it also isn't so good. And indeed, we see this very much in the modern world, where many people have mastered practicing kindness to animals and seem to have forgotten that that is meant to be training wheels for being compassionate towards human beings as well. Why? Well, partly because we think other humans are jerks. that we are in competition with other humans, that other humans are going to hurt us and take advantage of us. And so my compassion to my dog, to my cat, or even to unknown animals that I'm trying to help and support, that will not come back to, pardon the expression, bite me. But my compassion to humans, well, do they deserve it? And are they going to abuse it? Can I trust them? We are more suspicious of other people than we are of the animals in our care. And as such, many people have difficulty with taking the lessons of Shiluach HaKain, the sending away of the mother, or other mitzvot towards animals, and transferring them as they were intended to be transferred towards our interrelationships with human beings. And yet, it is precisely because of the essential nature of compassion as a glue for society that the Torah gave us these other mitzvot. This is going to sound controversial to those of you who are animal lovers, but if compassion within a human society was not of primary importance to the well-being of that community, the Torah probably wouldn't have bothered giving us so many commandments to teach us compassion through our treatment of animals. It's not to say that we shouldn't be kind to them for their own sake. Of course we should. But we have to recognize that the Torah's primary goal is the human soul's journey in connection with other human souls. And our experience with animals, with nature, with everything else around us is absolutely an essential backdrop for that, but it is not the goal. If you can be kind to animals, but you cannot find it in your heart to be compassionate to humans, then Judaism has not done everything it wants to do with you during this journey. Judaism wants you to find compassion for other humans and wants you to, of course, experience compassion in return. But it's hard. It's one of the things I love about Shiloh HaKen, as well as the muzzling of an ox, as well as the harnessing of two different species, is because they teach us that compassion comes with a cost. When I send away the mother, I am forfeiting the mother as part of my meal. I am likewise forfeiting my time by having to bother sending her away before I take what I want. When I muzzle my ox while it is threshing, when I don't muzzle my ox while it is threshing, it's going to eat some of what I'm threshing. I will be down its mouthfuls in my total harvest at the end of the day. When I take the time to properly harness my animals and not put them in a place that is so unbalanced that one or other of them are suffering, well, maybe I've only got these two animals. And if I have to use them individually, I will not be able to haul as much. I will not be able to plow as effectively. It will inconvenience me. It's going to cost me. There is a price tag to compassion. And the Torah tells us, yeah, there is. Compassion isn't free. Don't listen to the bumper stickers. Don't listen to, kindness costs you nothing and all of those other platitudes out there. Torah tells us compassion costs. Kindness costs. There is a price tag. If I am helping someone, I am giving them, whether it be my time, my energy, whether it be money, I am giving them something that is no longer mine. And the Torah says, that's right. Exactly. Because when it comes time to help another person, it is going to cost. Do you think tzedakah is free? Do you think the giving of tithes are free? Think of the mitzvah that we read so in such detail today about lost and found objects. I'm walking along and I find my neighbor's ox, and it's wandered out of the pen. And I grab its rope. Do I think, wow, now I have a chance to do an act of compassion for my neighbor who is probably very worried about this car that has wandered off by itself, very valuable thing for him. I get to take it back to him, and that is going to be an incredible boon for him, and thus for our relationship, and thus for our community. Or do I think, oh man, his stupid ox got out again. Now I got to take it back to him. You know what? I'll just pretend like I didn't see it. I mean, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you be annoyed at the fifth time you had to return the lost ox? Wouldn't you just say, forget it. If he doesn't want to keep his ox safe, then it's not my responsibility to take it back. Because taking it back is going to cost you. And what if your neighbor is away on vacation? Right? He left and it got out. He's not going to be back for 3 months. You've got to feed this thing in the meantime. And while it's true that you can ask for him to compensate you for the feed that was done, that's still 3 months of wear and tear on trying to take care of this. Kindness has a price tag. But the Torah tells us it's worth it. That this price that you pay is not lost money. It is an investment. That you are putting it into the relationship, you are putting it into the society. Because society is the sum total of all of our relationships. And when you show compassion, when you act with kindness, it strengthens the community. I know there are myths and all sorts of terrible self-help books and YouTubers out there talking about the warrior societies where kindness was a curse, where no one would show compassion to anyone because you had to be strong. You had to have the fire in your belly, and if the fellow next to you faltered, then he was weak and should be left behind to strengthen the community. No. These people have never read a single history book, have never looked into any societies. While there are some societies that may have had less than ideal treatment of newborn infants, I'm looking at you, Sparta, there are no societies where if your fellow was injured in battle, you just went, "Ha, loser," and walked off. You helped him back home. You helped him get back. You helped him heal. We have found Neanderthals that have seen that the bones show the evidence of the community trying to heal their injuries. What good is an older person with a broken leg in a Neanderthal society? And yet they had compassion for them. They kept them and they fed them even though they weren't going to be able to out-hunt mammoth anymore because they were people. And they deserved our compassion, and a society that shows compassion is a society that is stronger to itself. But there's a price. Compassion has a cost, but it is a cost that is always worth paying. It's one that we need to share, though. And that, I think, in the modern world is probably our most difficult issue to deal with, is that we often feel like, well, why should I be the one who has to bear the burden of being compassionate in this situation? Shouldn't someone else be compassionate here? Why do I feel like I'm the only one taking care of this problem? I'm the only one helping this person. I'm the only one who's bothering to be kind. Everyone else is barging in front of me in Starbucks line. Everyone else is being rude on the freeway. Everyone else at work is climbing the corporate ladder with knives in the back. Why should I be the schnook that is bothering to pay the price for compassion when they're not? Because you have a soul. And even if they don't recognize that, you're not only making an investment in society when you're being kind and compassionate, you are making an investment in your own soul, your neshama. Because God wanted each individual, not only our collective, to be imbued with this glory of kindness. He wanted each individual to understand the truth of what it is to look at another human being in need and to say, I will help you the way I can, regardless of what anyone else is doing. In a place where no one else acts as a person, you must be that person, says Pirkei Avot. Because that will give you a reward in your soul.
That's the most exciting thing about, our society today. There's, so many politicians and a lot of people who just, fall on their religion who are so unkind, and the meanness, it's so, and it becomes contagious.
We don't have a lot of good role models of compassion and kindness at the...
That goes painful part, I think, of my.
Let me finish my sentence. We don't have a lot of good role models of compassion and kindness at the top of the celebrity pyramid. And celebrities include, whether they be athletes, whether they be actors, whether they be politicians, people who grab the public attention. But we have many more thousands role models within our normal lives. Yes, the people on TV, the people on YouTube, the people who are tweeting, they generally are not getting the most likes because of their kindness. There are algorithms that can explain why that is the case. But we have to remember that we outnumber them. That the kind masses are actually the norm. Most people you meet want to be kind, want to be compassionate. They want permission to do that without being criticized for not being efficient, not being as ruthless, not being as ambitious as they should. They don't want to be criticized for failing to live up to that celebrity status of do what it takes to get ahead. And we are the reinforcement for that. When was the last time you complimented someone for their kindness, for their compassion? When was the last time you told other people about the compassion that you had witnessed someone else perform for someone else? When was the last time you took the time to even notice compassion that was neither asked of you nor given to you, but that you merely observed? Some are offering comfort or condolences to a coworker that you didn't know there was a problem, and you're not directly benefiting it, you're not even in the conversation, but you can see them with their arm over them, handing them a tissue. Someone saying, oh, I'll cover for you. I know you need to go visit so-and-so in the hospital. Do you notice those things going on around you? Because I'll tell you, they outnumber the meanness that is there. But the meanness grabs the headlines, and the meanness grabs our own attention in our daily life. We remember the dozen idiots that cut us off on the road on our drive to work. We don't remember the 10,000 other cars that all behaved fine. The person who let me on the freeway without trying to drive me into a ditch. We need to make sure that we celebrate that kindness, that we pay the price of our attention to kindness, and not only dwell on what causes us rage and anger. Because the rage and anger is something that will eat away at our own capacity to be kind and compassionate. There is a cost to compassion. Never think it is free, and never then think, why am I doing this if it hurts? You're doing it because there is this cost and because compassion needs you to do it. You will find this investment will pay off for yourself, for your own spirit, and for the society around us. Shabbat Shalom.